Now, this is more of an aside and to show that Git and GitHub are always evolving, version control is always evolving, and over the last few years, there have been many changes and really interesting and awesome integrations with some of our development tools, specifically VS Code. We're going to be using VS Code for this, but there are other code editors, of course, Xcode, which is Apple proprietary, or JetBeans. But VS Code is free for everyone and is supported on multiple systems. So a couple of things that we will need, and you might already have, is GitLens extension. You can get GitLens extension by searching for GitLens and installing it. And as you can see, there are many other Git extensions. But we're going to be focusing on GitLens and Git and GitHub integration within VS Code. So let's do a couple of things here. We still have our terminal open, but we can also open up the terminal in VS Code. So essentially, this is pointing to the same as here, right? It's really up to you. I prefer to have different windows. I work with separate screens. I prefer to have different windows for my terminal, for my code editor and whatnot, just because your screen space gets cramped very, very quickly, but it becomes, a matter of preference. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of things here and explore what VS Code is telling us. Right now we have no Git repository. I can check on that by running git status in a terminal. I can do it either in VS Code terminal, or I can do it in my own dedicated terminal. Either or, I'm gonna have the same message, right? All right, so let's initialize a new repository. And we can do it with git init, or we can do it again with VS Code. So when I go to source control, VS Code is telling us, well, no, this folder currently open doesn't have a Git repository. We can initialize it. So we can do either git init, or we can initialize a repository with the click of a button here. It essentially does a git init behind the scenes, evolving, right? So cool. Now, if you check out here at the bottom, we see that there's the main branch. Might be a little hard to see on the screen, but if you are following along, you'll probably see the same thing. We have the main branch here. If you click on this, we can create a new branch, we can check out whatnot, but we'll come back to that. So let's close up the terminal. So let's go back to our Explorer, basically, whatnot, and let's make a couple of files. Back to the bookstore, bookstore.txt. All right, and we'll start typing in a couple of things. We will throw in a couple of Lord of the Rings books. So, the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King. Cool. So let's say that. Let's jump to GitLens. So we have GitLens and we have GitLens inspect. What does it do? Well, let's explore. Let's explore this. First, we can go to source control, and we have a couple of things here. Now, we have changes, right? And VS Code is telling us so that we have some new changes. Let's take a look at the buttons. We have an open file, we have discard changes, we have state changes. So it's kind of like, what would that be? Add, right? And we see that this is on stage, the U. That's what the U is telling us. Up top, we have a couple of other things. We have U as a tree, we have generate commit message with GitLens. So that's a pretty new feature, like an automated commit messages. But probably want to have your own commit messages, but yeah, it's possible. Stash all the changes, show the commit graph, commit, or refresh. Couple of more actions here: pull, push, clone, checkout, branch. A lot of the things that we've done before, right? But now they're kind of getting integrated into the VS Code GUI. Here we have a graph, but we don't really have anything on the graph yet because we don't have anything yet. We haven't really done any. We haven't really staged any of the changes yet. We haven't done any commits. We haven't really pushed anything. So nothing. Nothing is on the graph yet. Have a couple other things. Fetch from all the remotes. Remember the fetch, pull. Remember the pull, publish branch, refresh, and whatnot. Let's take a look at Git lens. What that is telling us. It of course wants us to save 50% on Git Lens Pro, right? Git is a free open source software by the guys behind Linux. It will always be free. Linus Torvalds has been doing open source since the dawn of time. A lot of these other tools, they have, kind of like the free tier, but for the nice features, well, you need to pay, essentially. But the Git Lens free feature it's pretty good for learning, essentially. But nothing, this is a commercial software, so if you want all of the features, well, you're gonna have to, pay for it, upgrade and whatnot. But behind the scenes, it's just doing the same things that we have done through the command line. But with a lot of kind of like bells and whistles so you can visualize what's going on. So let's take a look at a couple other things. So we have a couple of things here, right? What's new, that's their stuff. And we have Git Lens Inspector. Oh, we have nothing really here yet. Uncommitted changes, file history, line history. There's so much that we can do. It's like uncommitted changes, visual file history, search commits. Well, we can't really search any commits just yet because we don't really have them. All right, let's go back to the bookstore. And notice I'm not touching the command line right now. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna add the changes. So I'm gonna go and say stage the changes, right? So VS Code is thinking. Let's open this up now. And the changes are staged. So index added. And if we go and open the changes, it says that the repository does not have any changes. Well, because we didn't really save anything yet. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Let's do our first commit. So we'll say first commit here. And we will commit. All right, something's happening. So we have our graph. So one file change, 3 insertions. Kind of like the same thing that we had in our terminal when we were doing the add and commit and whatnot. Then it's essentially telling us the same thing. Let's open this up here. Then we can look at the changes, right? At first we had a blank bookstore.txt, and then we added these 3 books. Now, all right, let's keep going. Let's go back to the bookstore, right? Let's add a couple more things. Let's add The Hobbit. What are the other 2 Hobbit books? Battle of Fire Armies. And The Hobbit. Solution of Sparware. All right. Cool. Let's close this up. Now, check this out. Now, Git Lens extension and Git extension in VS Code, is telling us something. We hover over this, added lines, added lines, added lines, added lines. So it's kind of tracking. This is tracking our file and say, okay, this is already good. This is new. So, and it's telling us uncommitted changes. Look, uncommitted changes, we're in a working tree. Okay. Let's say that Let's go to the source control. And look, we have a modified to bookstore. So let's add all of that again. So stage changes. We can discard changes. We can open file, discard changes. So what would happen if you discard changes? Well, let's see. If I click discard changes, it says, hey, are you sure you want to discard the changes? All right, sure, I do. What is it going to do? I discard changes. Well, it hops back to where we had the last commit, essentially. So it completely says, no, let's go back. Nothing's committed yet, nothing's added yet. Maybe I messed up. I'm going to discard that. But I digress. Let's put it back. So we have the Hobbit books. Let's jump back into our source control. So I want to stage the changes again. I'll stage them. Right. Okay. Good. I can take a look here. Now, if I open this up, right, because our bookstore is growing, I can take a look. All right, so this is on the left, we have the old file. And on the right, we have the new stage changes. Not committed yet, but staged, essentially. So the GitLens extension is showing us what we're about to commit, essentially. And we can do the same thing. We can say, all right, well, I'll commit and I'll make a message and say add. It's one of those things. Just if you're using past tense, use past tense. If you're using present tense, use present tense. So added the Hobbit books. Great. I'll commit. Great. Now we have this little graph now. This is building up, and this is a cool part about this. And let's add a couple more things. What can we do? Let's see. Oh, we'll close this out. We'll go back to bookstore.txt. And let's add a couple new things. So let's do some Philip K. Dick. So I'll do androids dream of electric sheep. What else did I? So Minority Report. That's him. And let's see, the eyes habit. I think that'll do. And again, our extension is saying, hey, there's a couple of things have been added here. And it says, okay, uncommitted changes. Yeah. So last commit was apparently 3 minutes ago, but all right. I'll save that. See this popped up? Look at that. Something is new here. Something is new. What happens if I make authors.txt? We'll have J.R.R. Tolkien. And we'll have Philip. Now we have two things here. Source control saying there's two pending changes. Let's take a look. Right? So we have a new unstaged, untracked authors.txt. We have a modified bookstore.txt. All right, let's do that. Let's stage changes. Now, notice something. When I pressed stage changes, it automatically added both authors and bookstore here, right? So a little less control than we had before. Now I can go in here and say, all right, well, I will then make a message, added an author and more books. Booze, more books. All right, commit. Great, added author and more books. And now we have this little bit of a graph going on. Now, if we go back to source control, take a look here. Bookstore still has these not committed. So I need to add that as well. Stage changes. I'll say added books. And commit that as well. Great. Let's take a look here. Now our graph is becoming something of a graph. Don't really, we just are going on branch main. Nothing is, no other branches, but yeah, it's becoming something. If we take a look at git lens, we can take a look and see that some of the commits were 12 seconds ago. If we go into git lens inspect, we can inspect the line history. We can go to inspector. This is our first commit. This is the added books. This is the added Hobbit books. We can jump back, essentially visually jump back. That's essentially the point here, right? And it says here visual file history, time frame 3 months. In this case, it's useful if you have a huge project and you want to jump back to a specific time frame, specific time period, and go back visually and whatnot. All right, so let's jump back here. Let's close this up. And look at that. If you go back on the graph, we can also kind of go back. Now, go back meaning we can look at the history, like a visual history. So this is the first commit, next one, and next one. And we can do the same thing with branching. What if I want to create another branch? Well, we have a main branch here. I can do create a new branch from. So create a new branch name is going to be comics. All right, press enter to confirm, escape to cancel. All right, now I have 2 branches, comics and main. Okay, now in branch comics, we can do something and add comics.txt, Amazing Spider-Man, Superman Returns, the Avengers. It's very general, but whatever. Cool. Let's go into here. Untracked file, right? So we'll stage the changes. We'll commit, added comics.txt, and we'll commit again. Now, our graph is saying, okay, added comics.txt. So how do we take this comics branch and merge it into the main branch? Because if we go into our branches, and we jump back to main, let's jump back to main. As far as we know, comics is not here. However, we go back to comics is here. So how do we do that? Kind of the same workflow essentially. First, we need to switch over to the target branch essentially. To what branch the merge is going to happen. So just like with the git checkout main, we're gonna go and say, all right, well, here's the main branch. Great. Now, what we need to do next is tell VSCode that we're gonna take the comics branch and then we're going to merge it into the main branch. So what we need to do then next, is jump in, depending on a shortcut that you have. For me, I think it's F1. Git merge. Git merge. There we go. And we say, okay, which select a branch or tag to merge from. So we're gonna merge from comics. All right. I'm gonna click that. And now we have comics.txt. So we merge the comics branch into the main branch, essentially. And if we go back, now we have added comics.txt, so everything is now under the main branch. And we can also use git lens to do the same thing. Where is our git lens? Here. Okay, so let's make a new branch actually. And for that, we'll open this up here, create a new branch, movies, and we haven't switched over to movies, right? I'm just double checking myself because I actually don't use a lot of the GUI tools. It's just a matter of habit, so to speak. And I'll do movies.txt. And let's say The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Save, jump over, stage changes, commit, added movies, Batman movies, Batman movies. Commit. All right, we're on movies branch. And now we will switch over. Nope, I don't want that. Fun part about all these GUI tools, yeah, they get over the top. So I'm gonna go back to main. We'll go back to main. As we can see here, we don't have the movies. Go back to version control. Let's open that up. Let's go into git lens. Let's bring up git lens. Let's take a look at main, movies, comics, right? Okay, I want to take the movies. I'm in main branch. I'll right click here and I'll say merge branch into the current branch. And it will merge one commit from movies into main. Essentially, same thing, like same thing that we did before. All right. Interesting enough, right? The VS Code integrated terminal popped up. And if you have been paying attention, we're kind of seeing a lot of the stuff that we've seen before. Meaning that, you know, behind the scenes, you know, it's bells and whistles on top of it, but what's going on behind the scenes is what we went over. But, you know, hey, if it works for you, if that's an easier way or gives you a better way to learn this, that is alright as well. Now let's take what we have so far. And so far we have a couple of branches, a couple of changes and whatnot. And let's go into source control. And let's take that and push it up to GitHub. And let's do that without using the command line. So let's see, I'm in movies. I want to go back to main branch. So now I'm in main branch. Now I want to publish branch. Right? And now extension GitHub wants to sign in using GitHub. I guess I'll allow that. And now it's giving me a little verify session, essentially. So I need to sign in into my account. and I need to give it some permissions, something like, access personal user data, workflow, whatnot, authorize Visual Studio Code. Access personal user data. What's the worst that could happen, right? So let's keep with that. I need to enter my password. If I remember my password. And now I need to go back to Visual Studio Code. All right, and now it'll give me some options. Publish to GitHub, private repository, something, project 2. I guess I'll call it project 2. I can call it something else. But I guess since I named the folder project 2, I will do that. Okay, so publishing to GitHub. And so I successfully published to my account, whatever project 2 repository. So, hey, let's open that up. And behold, it's here. Authors, text, bookstore, whatnot. Just the main branch though, right? Because we only pushed up the main branch. We on branch main, and we only push that up. If I want to go, let's say, to what other branches do we have here? We have comics. I want to go to comics, and if I want to publish that branch, basically push it up to GitHub, I'll do the same thing. So I'll publish that. Let's take a look back into our GitHub. I'll refresh. Now I have main and comics. So basically doing the same thing as we did on with the command line, but we're doing it with the extensions in VSCode. Which one is better? I mean, it's really up to you, right? I personally prefer mostly to use the command line. It kind of gives me that control, and that control is, once you get used to it, it's very simple. But the GUI tools are always evolving, and sometimes they kind of give you, somebody could say they kind of give you a better experience, right? It's all relative, it's all a matter of personal preference. In this case, what I can say about the GUI tools is it does give you a couple of things, kind of like, looking over previous commits and whatnot, a little bit of a better kind of like quality of life, like experience and whatnot. When it comes down to commands, right? Looking over these small little buttons, well, for me, I prefer like declarative commands in the command line. I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. And something to note, right? Something to note. These are subject to change. Where the buttons are, how they're laid out, what they do, and so on, right? And something like, even, let's say, GitLens, right? So GitLens is developed by a third-party developer. Let's go back to our extensions. So it is developed by GitKraken. Now, but they're probably not going anywhere anytime soon. But they can completely change their product. They can make it paid, essentially. So the free version will pretty much do most of the things. Oh, in most cases, pretty much everything that you need to do, unless you really need to get down into the nitty-gritty details. And GitHub integration with VS Code can also do pretty much everything. But at any point, some of these features may be dropped, the support for it may be dropped and whatnot. While for the command line tools, well, it's not going to be dropped as long as Git is around. And Git and GitHub integration is not going to be dropped for as long as Git and GitHub is going to be around. So it's important to understand the command line tools, and from there, once you have that fundamental understanding, then you can explore essentially other GUI options, you know, GitHub desktop, for example, if you really don't want to be boggled down by all of those kind of like scary looking commands. So there's always options, right? And the whole point is that in order to understand how to use those options, you need to understand the concepts and the fundamentals.